Hey everybody, David G here, founder of the Internet Marketing Party with my very special guest, the one and only Babakazad. How are you, Babak?
I'm
Sorry.
good.
uh,
I'm good. I'm good, Dave.
Cool, cool. So I just want to say a few things about Babak because he's one of these guys that has made and been responsible for more revenue than some of the biggest gurus that you follow on the internet, but you probably hadn't heard of him because he has been behind the scenes as senior vice president and head of media and acquisition at a company that you probably have heard of. It's a company called Beachbody. Babak has been responsible for buying over $500 in media, $500 million worth of media for Beachbody. And when he first came to Beachbody, they were only doing about $100 million a year. And 8 years later, under Babak's leadership and guidance, they were eclipsing $1 billion in revenue. So I'm very, very pleased to have you here on during this interview, Babak, as well as our guest speaker for the December 2016 Internet Marketing Party as we kick off the official pre-party for Ryan Moran's Freedom Fastlane Live 2. And one of the reasons that I asked Babak to speak is because of what I just said, which is there are a lot of gurus and big names that you probably heard of and are famous and that you're subscribed to their emails and newsletters. But I guarantee you they haven't driven as much traffic and haven't created as much impact on the interwebs and in media as Babak has. And so many of you that are on this list and that subscribe to this are interested in traffic. And if there's a person that not only understands traffic but understands the difference between traffic as a commodity and traffic as a source of wealth, it's Babak. I love reading his content. It's fascinatingly, you always know when someone is a master of their craft when you read their work and you're like, how did he make it so simple? So with that, Babak, I really appreciate you. You're going to be flying in from beautiful Los Angeles to share the stage, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of the folks that come from Freedom Fastlane Live because Ryan is paying for their tickets to come. But with you speaking, I'm confident we're going to get some of their speakers that want to come hear what you have to say, because everybody wants more traffic. Everyone wants to know the nuances and the let's say the distinctions that you've made and the principles that make the difference between being $100 million versus $1 billion company. So with that, I mentioned principles because I know
By the way, I got to say thank you, man. I got to take you as my PR guy wherever I go. That's awesome.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. With that in mind, one of the reasons I mentioned principles is that, principles are what drive the foundation of whether you're starting from 0 to $1 million to 50 million, 100 million, or all the way to $1 billion. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I got to say, I apologize for this overhead lighting. I'm actually in Austin at the Four Seasons, just wrapping up an event. So this is the quietest place I could get. But yeah, no, yes. So going back to your question, I'm very big on basics and fundamentals, and I think it's really easy to get caught up in shiny bright objects and the whatever the thing of the day is. And I think one of the things I've definitely learned is that, it depends what your definition of sexy is, but it's very easy to get allured by sexy things that are fun and neat to play with. But really coming back to basics and fundamentals, that's where, frankly, I think that's just, once you get that down, and when you have that down, it sets a foundation for, I think, honestly, it's for you to spend more time playing around. But I think sometimes people forget that there's a lot of stuff that is principles, and maybe you can get away with some things that aren't for a bit, but over time, it's probably going to catch up with you.
I hear you. I was talking with Henry Fuentes before he spoke, and I was like, dude, what can you share that's really cool and like something that when we took over running their JV and affiliate, getting JVs for their six-pack shortcuts, I was like, one way we could attract people is if you could share with them something really sexy that you're doing that no one else is doing. And he goes, put his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, bro, I hate to break it to you, there's nothing that we can share with people that are the people we want to attract as JVs and affiliates that they don't already know. it really just comes down to doing the basics and doing the right things over and over, with consistently testing and continuing to refine what you get as a result of those tests. So what
Yeah.
what I think would be really, really awesome is if you could give people a taste of what on this 10-minute interview, which is a taste test of what they're going to get when you speak at the party. So ideally, you share with folks today what you're going to talk about at the party, and you give them a taste test, kind of like a Chick-fil-A sample, so that they're inspired to come and watch you live in person. Because as we always do at the party, our speaker shows up, and, they don't show up just right when they come to speak. Babak will be hanging out in the crowd before he speaks, when he speaks, and after he speaks. So come and check him out. But Babak, will you give people an insight of what you mean, like a real simple taste test of how to sexify what's not sexy in marketing, principle wise?
Well, I mean, again, whatever word you want to use, I think for what I focus on is how do you grow a business and how do you grow the bottom line. And so I think that's if you want to call that sexy, then that's sexy, as opposed to kind of trying something that's fun and neat and cool, but really doesn't move the needle. And so, I think just to give some context, I left Beachbody 18, 19 months ago to start something. The team fell apart. And so I basically started working with folks on a consulting basis. And so I have 3 to 6 clients at any one point. Most of the folks I work with right now are, let's say, $10 to $30 million businesses, and starting to skew a little bit higher than that. And so I think part of the fun that I've had, and really part of the challenge, has been how do you apply what worked for $100 million business and growing it up to $1 billion to companies that are a lot smaller. And I think that's why I think the focus on fundamentals is such a big deal, because whether you're at 100K or 10K a month or 100 million a month, the emphasis of fundamentals is super key. And so, I think when I go to these events or, I hear people talk, I usually like to hear a couple different things. One is more tactical and applicable day to day, and that you can pretty much try to apply tomorrow or the next day or that night if you find it that way. And then a little bit more strategic and a little bit, I would not call myself a visionary, but a little bit of maybe state of the union of where I've seen things going. And I think that's been the fun part of particularly the last 18 months, to see what some folks are doing, what's working, what's not, and then a bit of where I think, at least a bit of where I see. And for, I guess, my 2 cents, and not that, and I don't know if you should listen to me better or worse than other folks when it comes to that, but certainly I have some perspective, I think, just by the diversity of the clients I work with and have worked with. And, it's up to some 9-figure folks that I'm doing some work with, and then certainly with Beachbody. So, I think they're going to be 2 different things. Pretty concise. I know it's not that long, and people want to get some stuff that's pretty quick and get to the core of it, which is generally my style. So, I think the first part is a little bit more tactical, which will be a little bit what I've seen and learned when it comes to scaling, and really what helps people do that. Some of it really is going to come back to fundamentals, but some of it comes back to knowing your numbers. And really, people have asked what was the core success to growing the Beachbody business, particularly the DR side, and it was a relentless focus on optimizing everything. That sounds kind of silly, which is you can't actually optimize everything at once, and so you got to prioritize, right? And so even within the front end, back end, but I think we really were relentless about how do we focus our attention. And so I think in the last 18 months plus, that's what I've tried to do with folks, and I think it's a little bit of giving a little taste of some of the things that I've been a part of and that we've done that has really made a big difference in allowing some campaigns to scale. And I think, frankly, had we not done some of these things, they would not have. So I think that's going to be the focus on the tactical side. And then from I'll call it more strategic, it's a little bit more of where I see things going, and really, and I think the tease on that is really this idea of bridging direct response and brands. And I think those 2 concepts generally have not played well together from both sides. And and I think I have a little bit of my own take on brand. So it's not just I've kind of gone to the other side, if you will, from the DR perspective, and it's not just about brand advertising, but actually being realizing that you have to build a brand, and that being cognizant of that. And if you actually want to build something substantial and certainly sustainable, that you can't be oblivious to it. If you want to be in the offer business and just go from offer to offer, then fine. Nothing I can do about that, but that's really not where I'm putting my attention. Certainly not the kind of people that I work with, and I don't have a judgment against it. It's more about your preference, right? And I got friends who do that, but my attention is much more about sustainable, substantial growth. And so that layering in of brand into how you think about managing and running a direct response and performance-based campaign. And I definitely have some thoughts on that I've been starting to put together and continue to refine. So going to share, I think, more tactical and execution-based, as well as more strategic and philosophical, if you will.
Nice, nice. So if somebody's coming to the party and they're running like a, $50,000 to $150,000 a year business, where they're either still, subsidizing their income with a part-time job or a full-time job and running this on the side, or somebody who's at the 100,000 to 300,000 range, give us a little taste test of what you would share with somebody like that at a more, rubber hits the road. Because now I feel like I've got a real solid base or understanding of what you're going to share at the party.
Right.
And I'm confident that the people that are running businesses higher and more successful than I just mentioned will completely get what you just said. So I'm wanting to make sure that the folks that are still with us that are running smaller businesses don't tune out, because I hate to say it, but really the folks that are running 300,000 to smaller businesses, they still have that hankering and that yearning for the fast cars and the jets and the stuff that originally pulls people into direct response and to wanting to quit their job, right? They get allured by the stuff, and and I think it's part of the ethos of a lot of direct response, and I hate to say it, but what people think of as internet marketing. So could you speak to them as though, like, if you were sitting next to somebody that's running a $50,000 to $100,000 affiliate business, or just something that
Sure.
they're trying to find their way, and they'd be more likely to go and watch a webinar on how to do Pinterest and get 50,000 followers than come listen to you, where in my heart I know you're who they should be, but they're still being pulled by that tactical, magnetic squirrely stuff. This bright shiny squirrel.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a couple things. One is, I don't know if it makes anyone feel better, but everyone, I think whether you're small or big, everyone is resource constrained, and everyone wishes they could do more. Everyone wishes technology was better. Everyone wishes they had more offers. Everyone wishes they were scaling faster. And so however tiny a business is, or however big it may seem, and whatever that definition is, I think those kinds of philosophical challenges are things that everyone is facing. I think particularly when you're smaller, you have to focus on sales. And so, I've written pieces on cost optimization and things like that. And you can't be oblivious to it, but you can optimize your operations. But if you don't have sales, it doesn't matter. So I think it's a relentless focus on, are the things you are doing, whether you're full-time, part-time, whatever, the time that you are spending in your business, is it driving sales? And I think that's the filter. And I think also with the idea of, hopefully you are not torching whatever brand you are building, because there are ways to drive sales that are, in a month and in 6 months, you're not going to be able to continue to drive more. Right. But so I would say, assuming that, but it's a relentless focus on sales and where are the key levers and where are the best places to be. And just because Gary Vee talks about Snapchat, if you are going after, 70-year-old construction workers, I would probably not be spending time there, nor on Pinterest, right? And I'm picking a silly extreme for a moment, because I think a lot of times people don't realize that. And certainly the Facebook, Google, and I'd include Bing in there. Those platforms generally apply to everyone. So presumably, if you're in that business and you're trying to drive paid traffic, those are the places I would probably be looking. But I think it's a relentless focus on, is what I'm doing today going to affect my sales? And I think that's the focus, because I know some folks get in the business and their personalities are much more operational. And so it's great to have everything super clean and tight. But again, what are you running through it? And if you're not spending time driving leads and orders and revenues through it, that's something nice to look at, but it ain't going to pay the bills.
Babak, you know what keeps coming to mind as you speak? Like every time you've shared is, do you ever go to like the carnival or to like Dave and Buster's, and they have that water game where you shoot water through a pistol, and there's a
Right.
circle and there's a ring, and if you hit outside the ring, well, the water just sprays off the plate. But if you get it like in the ring, you've got to hit the center ring.
Yep.
And if you
Yep.
hit that center ring, the little thing goes up, or the horse moves forward, or whatever, and everybody's
Yep.
racing. I get a sense of what you're talking about is if you go too aggressive on sales, you're going to ruin your marketplace and your ability to keep that consistently enough. But if you go too aggressive on systems and optimization of keeping everything super tight and clean, you're on the other side. But if you can get right in the middle where you've got everything tracked systems wise and operations wide, where you're able, your frameworks are good, and you're driving sales through it, then your little horse is gonna just, it's gonna be like a nitrous horse, like.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And I think some of that too goes to things like, can you deliver on the promise of, again, I'm going to assume you're driving paid media, but it doesn't really matter. However, you're getting people to your site, what's on there, whether it's a product or service, does that deliver on the promise? And I think, just something we were talking about yesterday with some folks, the idea of the focus on the product and how important that is. Again, if you want to build something sustainable, people oftentimes completely underestimate that, and not even underestimate, they just disregard it.
Yeah.
And you can get away with something. That doesn't mean you have to have perfect by any stretch, or whatever perfect means on day one, but you have to have attention. And so if your product does or service doesn't do amazing things, don't try to tout that it necessarily does that, because you're going to get people who come in and they're going to be unhappy, and they're either going to cancel or ask for refunds, things like that. So I think you got to know what you got and play those cards, and then you continue to try to get a better hand and start trading up and building up. But I mean, you got to be, if that's that circle, figure out where your circle is, and then certainly try to build, make that circle bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Well, I mean, there's two things that have come to mind as a result of, that I wanted to say earlier, and that's still right at the top of my mind. And that's, first of all, that what you're up to is really sharing that the journey is the destination, right? Like, I mean, it kind of, like, I don't want to sound like I'm fucking some like woo or anything, but like at the end of the day, everyone wants the destination to be right there. But if you can shift your mindset to where if you, in your every fiber of your bones, you feel that like the journey is what I'm doing, like that is the process, that is the destination, and you focus on that and you do it well, whatever destination you like, kind of goal or what is vision board thingy you have out there. If you focus on the destination, on the journey as the destination, you'll end up there, or you'll probably end up somewhere better. And the other thing that keeps coming to mind is that what you do is you have the experience that if I heard what you have to say from some guy that's pulling down $100 grand a month or a year, like I'm not sure if it's valid, but to hear it from someone who's taken a company from 100 million to 1 billion, it's more about confirmation. It's not necessarily about what you're going to say. It's about who's saying it. So I encourage, I'm almost saying that more to you at home or wherever you are watching this video right now. I urge you, if you really care about building something meaningful, even if you're on the side that Babak was mentioning, that's more direct response and not brand centric, some of these principles will apply to you anyway. I want to have a good solid crowd for Babak. Last year we had over 400 people. We had the fire marshals get called on us, and so I'm looking to repeat that this year. So if you're watching this right now, go to internetmarketingparty.com/Austin and get your tickets and share this video, this presentation with everybody that you know that has any interest in making money on the interwebs, because this is gold. I'd put Babak in the same room with Michael Masterson, or AKA Mark Ford, because these guys they've been there, they've done it, they've driven more revenue than, I guarantee you, 3 or 4 of the top gurus you follow. So anything you want to say beyond that? Or
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to come, and certainly, hopefully, to get some deliver. I'll steal Gary Vee's line of hopefully deliver a lot of value. That's kind of the point. And so, my goal is to make sure that I'm delivering that, and certainly be there before, as you mentioned, and after to hang out with folks and get to know folks. And that's why I love these events, because it's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it comes back to the people. So hopefully I can share some good stuff, and then get to know some people. And I always learn plenty, just talking with folks and hearing from their experiences as well.
And I can absolutely confirm what Babak just said, because when I invited him to speak, he was like, his first question was, well, who's the audience? I want to make sure that I can bring value. I told him, dude, we've never paid for someone's flight or hotel, so you'd be flying here on your own dime, and you can't pitch or sell anything. So Babak was like, he asked a couple of people that have been to the parties for a long time and who are friends of mine and friends of the party, and he confirmed that like, this would be a cool thing for him to do. So he's doing this as a give back to the community. So there's nothing in it for Babak other than to just be cool and share wisdom. And so if he doesn't come and share amazing value for you, then he wasted his time. And I don't think he's not the kind of guy that he's got a family and a couple of beautiful kids, and he spends a lot of time with them, traveling the world and whatnot. So this is something where if he's willing to come from across the country to come share value with you, then I recommend you do the same. So, Babak, anything you'd like to say before we say good night or good morning?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Good chatting, and I'm excited. It's going to be a few weeks. I'm excited to hopefully see everyone in a few weeks.
Sounds awesome. Well, everybody, see you guys on Thursday, December the 8th in Austin, Texas. Go to internetmarketingparty.com/Austin for more details, for exact location, tickets, and the start and end times and things like that. So, Babak, thank you so much for your time. I know you're in town for big $35,000 a year annual mastermind. So I pulled you away from networking with some of the interwebs finest, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you on Thursday, December the 8th in Austin, Texas.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Dave.